Even when I lived in the house with mice, I never actually saw any dead mice. I saw one mouse that looked like it had been run ragged, and that was it. And I took it outside, where it probably died.
Well, everything dies, Danielle.
That's true.
Yay for nihilism!
Well, acknowledging that everything dies doesn't make it nihilistic.
Oh, well, I should have added, everything dies and nothing matters. There we go.
There you go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Book Retorts. I'm Danielle.
I'm Sam.
And this is a podcast where one of us explains a weird piece of media to the other who has no experience with it.
That's right, Danielle. I'm inexperienced, like a brand new deck of cards. Don't forget to shuffle me before dealing.
Sure. I don't know how you come up. Do you think, I honestly wonder if you are taking a shower in the morning and you're like, I'm going to use that on the podcast.
I mean, every now and then, before, we're recording it, I better think of one. But usually they just sort of come to me.
Amazing. Just absolutely astonishing to my brain.
Well, Danielle, the single theme song person, has trouble conceptualizing, improvising different things.
I'm really good at improvising some things, and it's just the things you improvise I'm not good at.
Yep, we have our skills, Danielle. That's why we're so complimentary.
All right. Well, anyway, that is not the point of our podcast.
I don't know, Danielle. I think people just turn it off here, but they're good.
Today, we're doing something that's actually pretty topical, Sam. We rarely do things that are in the zeitgeist that are happening right now, but we are today. So today we're doing, Sam, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes by Suzanne Collins, writer of The Hunger Games.
Yes, the prequel that recently was made into a movie, yes?
This came out in 2020, so it was a movie, I want to say 2023 or something. The movie came out a couple years ago, but we're doing the book, because
right, of
why
course.
not? Well, we could do the movie, and movies always make less sense than the books, but no. I decided to go strong with book retorts and do the actual book this time.
Danielle, please, we gotta be on brand by being not on brand.
Exactly. So, a little history, because I think it's important for people to know that you have read The Hunger Games, Sam.
Yes. I read the original Hunger Games book many years ago. I don't remember.
Probably when they came out in 2008, so probably sometime post that, I would imagine.
Yeah. No, I didn't read them before they came out, Danielle. Good call. Well-reasoned detective.
And I have recently reread all of The Hunger Games. I also read them approximately when they come out. And I like them much more than Sam does, as nobody is probably surprised by that information.
I think they're fine. I'm not a big, a YA dystopia. I mean, I'll be clear. I do like some YA dystopia. The True Meaning of Smek Day was pretty fun, for instance. Mm-hmm. I like the first book in the Maze Runner series. The rest of them were progressively more insane, which is actually fun in its own right. But I gotta say, I don't remember them nearly as well as I probably should at this point, so
that's okay.
I'm feeling like you, Danielle.
Yeah, that's totally fine. And it's not really relevant. It's just spoilers, people. So we are going to be talking about The Hunger Games. So if you haven't read them and you're like, man, I really want to, this may not be the podcast for you today.
I also have not seen the movies, to be clear, either. So
movies are actually a great rendition. They're very visual books, and I think the movies did a really good job with that. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, if you're a movie. Okay.
Great. Well, I'll defer to your opinion on that.
Okay. I'm going to send you the summary, Sam.
Sure.
I actually put two together, so.
Ooh.
Yeah.
You did more than the 1 sentence IMDb summary. You couldn't do an IMDb summary.
Yes, and I could have. And I am going to warn people.
Could you have?
Yeah, because the movies, it's kind of similar. I can talk about later the difference between the movies and the books. But, I will let you know that this is probably going to be, I'm thinking 2-part.
Okay, 2-parter.
FYI, because we're not going to get through it all today. It's a very long, unnecessarily long book. And I say that with all the love of Suzanne Collins and The Hunger Games.
Look, as someone who just finished what I would call ridiculously overlong book, I understand.
Yeah. All right, let me send this over to you.
Great. Now, I read the first sentence here, and I'm already upset. No, I'm kidding. It's fine. Fans of the Hunger Games won't want to miss this long-awaited prequel to the beloved series. Following a young Cornelius Snow. Really? Cornelius?
That's his name, Sam. Future President Snow.
As in the Shakespeare. I forgot.
Yes.
Great. Now, this isn't, a clear allusion to the Shakespeare play Coriolanus, I'm sure.
Okay, I don't know if you remember this from the books, but
No,
all the names are
absolutely not.
wild. All the names are crazy. We will get into some of the names, but they're all,
I remember,
insane.
2 names. I remember Katniss
Also crazy name.
Everdeen. I mean, sure, but that's like your standard fantasy, name.
Except it's named after a plant.
So, people get named for plants.
Oh, sure.
I'm just saying, Cornelius Snow is much more like, I'm a literary English major than Katniss Everdeen.
Maybe he is. You don't know.
Okay, great. Anyway, a young Cornelius Snow determined to prove himself as a mentor in the deadly games. Games is capitalized, deadly is not.
Dun, dun, dun. Well, the games is the Hunger Games.
I figured that. I just read, but they call them I thought they just called them the Deadly Games, with the capital D before that.
Well, I mean, we can talk about why they're called the Hunger Games, I suppose.
Filled with just as much high-stakes action and emotion as the original series. Well, you'll be the judge of that. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes is an enthralling return to the capital. Ambition will fuel him. Competition will drive him. But power has its price. It is the morning of the reaping that will kick off the 10th annual Hunger Games. It's like 2 different stories.
I know,
in the capital.
I added them together. I wanted you to know a little bit of plot, but also that was just too good not to share.
Sure. In the capital, 18-year-old Coriolanus Snow, there he is again, Coriolanus, is preparing for his one shot at glory as a mentor. We just went over this, guys. As a mentor in the games. Not the deadly games, just the games this time. Very important. The once mighty House of Snow. Okay, Game of Thrones. Thank you. The once mighty House of Snow has fallen on hard times, its fate hanging on the slender chance that Coriolanus will be able to outcharm, outwit, and outmaneuver his fellow students to mentor the witting tribute.
I just enjoyed both of them so much that I actually took out a whole part because I didn't want to ruin the second half of this novel.
Sure. That was, I'm glad we got the same thing twice in 2 different ways. Great.
You're welcome.
I still think it should be the Deadly Games with a capital D, but, I'm not the editor here, so what do I know?
Absolutely talk about that. All right. I should preface this by saying I think I liked this book. I have a lot of feelings about this book, so we can get into that more towards, the end of wrapping up and everything.
Sure.
But just
Sure.
so people know that I did not hate this book, but I just have feelings about it.
And I also want to be clear, I like to give young adult fiction a pretty broad pass for a lot of things because, again, it's young adult fiction. It's not supposed to be like high literary art. Like, don't get me wrong, I love it. There's some of my favorite books are young adult fiction, but like, I'm not going to say it has to be perfectly accurate or have the most solid logic or whatever in the story. It has to be like a complete masterclass in literature to be a worthwhile young adult book. So
yes, well, we have different feelings about the Hunger Games. All right, moving on.
I didn't realize this was your favorite young adult series of all time.
It's
Danielle,
not.
Best literary series ever.
I mean, it's a pretty good series. On reread, it stands up.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It's fun. I still have the books on my shelf.
This book is split into 3 different sections.
So we're gonna do 1.5 today.
We are gonna do one because the second and third parts are shorter than the first part. So the first part's titled The Mentor. So we meet Coriolanus Snow, known for such things
as... Thanks for clarifying which Coriolanus.
He's known for such things as regretting that he didn't kill Katniss sooner in the Hunger Games.
I mean, boy, that would have solved a lot of problems. I think the thing I remember most about the Hunger Games is our discussion of how it ended. And I'm not sure if that'll become relevant in this book, but I have a lot of feelings about the decisions that were made in that book and why they're goofy.
So the fun thing about this book, Sam, which is why I'm bringing it to the table, is because you and I have had big discussions on the Hunger Games concept. And this is like the precursor to how all of that came to be. And I think you'll find it interesting what it started as and then where it ends up going, knowing that's why it's important that you've read the Hunger Games and why we're going to talk about the Hunger Games. Okay,
I'm excited about that. And, again, I don't know if that will redeem Snow for making just completely boneheaded decisions as a, all-powerful dictator in the first books, but, I appreciate the context.
We'll find out. So he's 18 years old. It's his final year of school before college. And we start with him lamenting the fact that he's cooking cabbage once again to prevent his stomach from growling during the reaping ceremony, which is on July 4th, Sam.
So he's hungry and he's thinking about games.
Yes.
I think there's a through line here.
Yes. Yes, that's why they're called The Hunger Games. He is not in charge of calling it The Hunger Games. They're already called The Hunger Games when this book starts, Sam.
I thought they're just called the Deadly Games.
Nope, they're called The Hunger. That's why Deadly wasn't capitalized.
No, but they didn't call them the Hunger Games. They just called them the games.
It said Hunger Games at the beginning.
No, they said fans of the Hunger Games won't want to miss this, and then they didn't mention the word Hunger Games. I think the person who wrote that was referencing them. It doesn't matter, Sam. They're called the Hunger Games exist. Okay, let's make it. Let's make the point that the Hunger Games. I thought part of this was learning how they were called the Hunger Games.
We are going to see their current in how they currently exist. You will see how they currently exist. Right.
I thought we were going to learn how they got their name. Like, this is why we'll call them the Hunger Games from hence.
No, I have no idea. Because people
they do that they do it in every prequel. They do oh, how did R2-D2 get this way or whatever? Those do those dumb things that questions don't need to be answered. I thought they're going to do that in this one as well, but okay.
I mean, this has lots of answers to questions I didn't need answers to, but yes.
Great. Okay, perfect.
It's a little heavy-handed in parts. So, to quote, it was one of a long list of precautions he took to mask the fact that his family, despite residing in the penthouse of the capital's most opulent apartment building, was as poor as district scum, that at 18, the heir to the once great House of Snow had nothing to live on but his wits.
I do love the word House of Snow.
It's great.
Also, I mean, nothing live on but your wits. You have a penthouse. It's got to be worth something.
It's all, so this is post-war. As we'll find out quickly.
Which war?
The war that preceded that started the Hunger Games. So
wasn't there a name for it, like the something war?
I don't remember, Sam. I'm going to be honest, but it's when the rebel District 13, because there's 12 districts, 13th district
or something.
Yeah,
right.
Go to war. They nuke 13 because the rebels bombed the capital. So his apartment building's pretty run down. There's plaster peeling off the walls, and we'll get into a little bit more about how his family got into this predicament. But at this
betting
point,
on the ponies,
you wouldn't. People think that he's rich, and he's not. He's very very poor.
A facade. He's very conscious of his appearance.
Yes. So, because it was the House of Snow, Sam. It was a big deal.
The House of Snow. That means something to me, I suppose.
And his father, if I recall correctly, was the previous president of Hanau. So as he's contemplating all this...
The airline?
Yes.
Sorry.
The Capitol anthem starts to play through the house, and his grandma's voice joins in to sing it. It's a daily event for her. He recalls her playing it for them during the war as children as an act of defiance, like the rebels will never take us, we'll stand our ground. It's been 10 years since all of that happened, but the singing continues every single morning.
Well, you got to have your routines, I suppose.
I suppose so. So throughout the war and after, the family had been forced to sell or trade its possessions. And we'll get into that a little bit more later. He's contemplating calling in sick because what he's worried about is that his cousin took the shirt that he was supposed to wear, which was his father's old shirt, very yellowed and everything. His cousin's just getting into being a designer. So she took the shirt and she's like, I'm going to work on this. And he's panicked because she has not come back and he's supposed to leave any minute.
You can just go shirtless. It's fine.
Yeah. That would work. So, as we know from the summary, Sam, he's been chosen as one of the 24 mentors for the Hunger Games. And he worries if he doesn't show, he'll get replaced, that it might weaken his chance of a monetary prize at graduation, because it's the last big hurrah before graduation. And if he does well at this, he will get basically a full ride scholarship to college, right? That's what he's worried about.
Questions.
Yes.
I got all the questions already.
Okay.
Why are children, high schoolers, being asked to participate in the...
We will get into that. You may not like the answer,
mentor.
But we do actually get into that.
All right. I want to make sure it wasn't because I've met high schoolers, they'll do internships, it's fine, but I wouldn't be yes, you're now coaching the, Dallas Cowboys or whatever. I don't know. I don't know football teams, the one I can think of, but Yankees, you're not coaching the Yankees or something. That seems ridiculous.
Yeah, well, when you see what the Hunger Games are like, Sam, you will see why anybody thought it was a good idea for kids to teach other kids.
Great, okay.
So at the last possible moment, Tigress, who is actually featured briefly in the Hunger Games novels as one of the consultants that does all the clothing and designs for the Hunger Games, so she ends up being part of Snow's empire. Yep. It's his cousin, comes through the door and she's made the shirt good again. She's bleached it. She's stitched it's nice design on it. They've used tesserae from the cabinet in the maid's bathroom. And so it's it looks fancy, right? She's pulled it off. So she and his grandma send him off after his grandma tucks a rose from her rooftop garden into his lapel or whatever.
Weren't roses a big thing in like the
yes,
first?
He always smells like roses. Like his mother smelled like roses. It's like a huge
I don't think we needed
theme.
this. We didn't need this background.
No, we didn't at all. That's why I'm including it.
Great,
like I said,
perfect,
parts of
thank you.
this so heavy-handed. Like stuff I did not need to know why he cared about roses. Don't care. It's in this book. Like heavy
roses
in this
smell
book.
nice. He can smell like roses. That's all the answer I needed.
Yeah. So he leaves his apartment and he walks outside, and they live like in a nice part of downtown, obviously, but people don't realize how like ramshackle his actual penthouse apartment is after the bombings. And the streets are still, this is 10 years post-war. I need to make this clear. And the streets are still filled with rubble on the sidewalks, chunks of marble, granite lodged in the street. And he has to like maneuver through them as he makes his way to school. And he like constantly
People
wonders.
are not like angry at this dictatorial, I don't know what you call autocracy, that they're like, well, you know, we'll just leave. Like the whole point of authoritarian regimes, people are like, we'll trade our freedom to get stuff done.
Yeah.
Basically is what happens. And nothing's getting done.
It's very unclear to me in this book. I don't know if I missed it, if I just am not picking up on the subtext to it. It feels like they've spent money on certain things. They have not spent money on like rebuilding the streets of the capital and like fancy famous people's like apartment buildings.
Yeah,
like it doesn't make any sense to me. Do they not have the money? Like it maybe they just don't have the money, Sam. It's been 10 years, so you think they'd have money.
This is the thing from the first book. Like this authoritarian regime makes no sense to me. The way they like where they allocate resources, like let's build holograms and death traps for our Hunger Games, but not clip the rubble in our capital. Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, you know, authoritarian regimes don't operate that way.
Well, we'll get into the Hunger Games more. Maybe it'll make more sense, Sam.
It won't, but thank you.
So he kind of wonders if maybe they've left it behind to remind the people what they've endured, as he realizes people have short memories.
So you make statues or monuments.
Yes,
they're much better at that.
You're talking about people who created the Hunger Games, Sam. Have you met these people?
Yeah, they created the freaking Hunger Games. They can like every year they make like a new incredible arena. They can make a statue pretty easily.
Well, we'll find out.
Okay.
So he just wonders if they're like forced to live in poverty, witness the Hunger Games to keep the war fresh in their minds. He's just contemplating as he's walking to school.
You know, then he's not contemplating very well, because if they wanted to do that, there are like a million better ways. They'd be airing documentaries, daily moments of remembrance on the radio or TV or whatever.
He absolutely could, but apparently this may be the way
just
they're doing it.
Just leaving rubble in the street with no context. Like, oh yeah, that'll work.
So
insane.
To summarize, for those who maybe haven't read The Hunger Games or haven't read them in quite a while, as Sam is party to, much like The Hunger Games in the later books, the basics are there for the current Hunger Games. There are 24 tributes, a boy and a girl from each of the 12 districts, drawn from a lottery. They're thrown together to fight to the death, but none come from the capital. It's only the other 12 districts.
So yes, that's clear about that. I was asked that the capital isn't one of the districts.
Correct. And it's all laid out in quote-unquote the Treaty of Treason that had ended the dark
Great name.
I know you'd like it. That's why I included it.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
This Treaty of Treason had ended the dark days as one of the many punishments borne by the rebels. The tributes are dumped into the Capitol arena, which at this point in time, Sam, is just a dilapidated amphitheater.
So it's like a Colosseum.
Colosseum style. And there's weapons in the center, much like there was during the later games, and viewings encouraged.
So it's just basically like a gladiatorial battle, not the elaborate, over-the-top reality show that it becomes.
Absolutely. And we will get into this more because I have thoughts.
Yeah, I bet you. I have thoughts too already. And I bet yours are better than mine because you've actually read this book.
Wild. So this year is the first time that they've had mentors, but what all that entails is still being worked on. Like, really, they've just said, okay, like, we need people to watch the Hunger Games, kind of humanize them a little bit more. What if we use students from... So what if we use students from the Capitol that, like, mentor the district kids? Why this was a good idea, I don't know, Sam.
So this is the problem I had with the first Hunger Games book, with the Hunger Games, specifically how it ended. Will this be an appropriate time to me to go into that, or should I wait?
You can go into it now. I'll stop you if it gets answered.
Yeah, okay, so here's what it was. It's been a while, but I remember is that, like, they have this whole thing where only one person survives, and they made, like, a rule change that said, hey, 2 people can survive if they come from the same district, right? And they have this whole love story they were playing up between Katniss and Gale? Was that his name?
Peeta is the one that's in the games with her. Gale is the one that's back in the district.
I knew one of them was Gale, whatever.
Good job.
They're interchangeable in my mind. Peeta the baker, the baker guy who decided himself. There you go. Yeah. So they like put up this whole love story. She doesn't really love him, but we're not gonna get into that. And they put this whole love story where they can save them. They make everyone love them, and they play it all up. And at the very end, they're like, "Oh, psych! You still have to kill each other."
Yes.
And obviously, they decide not to do that, which ticks off everyone until the regime's like, "Oh, just kidding," which shows their weakness. But like. Why? Like, this is the whole thing. Like, humanizing the contestants makes people like them more and makes them hate you for killing them more, which is, I think, would undermine your grip of power. If you're like, I don't know, it just seems
Sure. So they go into it a little bit in this book, and I said this is a very long book, so I'm not going to get like super in depth onto it. But they talk about how. And this is, like I said, the very beginning stages of Hunger Games. So this isn't even fully developed in this novel yet. But the idea is that, like, you're giving people... This is a terrible thing that you're doing, right? You're taking the children from these districts, making them fight, making people watch it. Or you're going to be making people watch it right now. It's viewing is optional. So you're, like, making people watch it. And... you're giving them hope that somebody's going to win. That's like the whole concept, right?
Right.
And Snow's really big on that. Not yet, but like later, he's very big on that as like this idea of giving people hope. You're doing this terrible thing, but somebody could win. That person's going to go back to the village. They're going to live a great life. Like, it's worth it because
they're going to save their district, make the whole district powerful for a year or whatever.
Yeah, the district all gets food if the person wins. They get all get food like supplements. So it's like, it's really important for the district to potentially win. Which is why, District 12 has had like one winner. They're super downtrodden. They're super poor. They can't afford anything. Yeah. It's why it's such a big deal. Yes, but because I've read the Hunger Games recently and I've talked to them like about probably to every person I know. Because I do that when I'm like obsessing over things. You can pinpoint exactly, like you just said, you can pinpoint the problems that the regime has. You're like, shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't. As soon as it happens, you're like, that's a terrible idea. Why doesn't the regime see that?
Just let them win. I think my biggest thing was they changed the rule to let them win together. I mean, this whole love story.
If they won together, you wouldn't have had a giant uprising.
No, it would have been like, hey, benevolent regime supports love. They're not all terrible. Like, you can paint it, like, your propaganda is that way. To just spitefully be like, just kidding at the very last moment, and then to back down just shows weakness and cruelty, and everyone's like, oh, these guys suck.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I'm with you on that, Sam. And that's why what makes the, like, early stages of the Hunger Games, like, bizarre to me.
Okay.
As we'll get there.
I gotta get that off my chest. Like, the one thing I remember about the Hunger Games is how ridiculous that decision was, and how, like, I hate to say this. I mean, obviously, there's no way to know how you or I would be as a dictator, and I hope we never find out.
But they sometimes make stupid mistakes. She's trying to destroy hope. Like, hey, we've risen this couple up to be the hope of this district. And no, actually, we're terrible. And we're going to kill this one person because you guys are just peons. And we're pointing that out during this televised screening. That was the idea. And I could see why they thought maybe that was a good idea. But as a spectator, I think you get the
Sure. I get there's armchair dictatorial. This is a bit of an armchair dictatorship we've got going on here. So I get that we may not be on the ground and it's easy to point out mistakes in hindsight, but like even when it was happening, I thought it was dumb.
But I think that's like the dictators almost get too big for their britches, right? They're like, these are great ideas, and you've got all these like people that live in the districts
they overestimate their power. They don't have to say no to them.
They have a completely different mindset to like what they're viewing. Like, and so when you do try to kill that other person, that's like uprise material where the person thought that was going to be like oppression material, and it was not. So I think that's
I think Snow, as he was painted in the first book, was a better student of human character than that. Like, he understood human psychology better than
what they did. But he also is not 100% involved in the reread because, like, literally just a couple weeks ago, he's not 100% involved in that. He's kind of given the Gamemaker quite a lot of control of that. He actually warns him several times, like, don't screw this up. And so I'm not sure the Gamemaker was running everything past him because ultimately the Gamemaker ends up dying in that first book. He's like immediately killed because of his decisions.
All right. Well, you know what?
So
maybe that ending made more sense than I remembered from my first read.
Yeah, that's arguable, but I agree it's like past tense, even when you're watching it. But you're in the viewpoint of a district person, right? You're watching that being like, screw this dictatorship. And so like you're not the dictator making that decision. So I think it doesn't make as much sense to you because you're like, why you're on the side of like, yeah, uprise, man, kill him. Like,
I guess
destroy the empire.
I still think you know what? I agree.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
I get it.
All right. Anyway, I think that's the biggest digression I'll have into the original Hunger Games. Hopefully, we'll
totally
find out.
Fair.
But, yeah.
So, as I said, this is the first year that they're having the mentors. The games are literally about to start. Like, this is, again, the morning of the reaping, right? Where they're picking the kids to bring them to the Hunger Games amphitheater. And they have no details worked out, Sam. I can't tell you. They have all year to plan this thing.
That just feels like I'm at work where like we have something going on. People are like, oh, we'll plan it. We'll put a meeting and nothing ever happens. And they're like, oh, it's tomorrow. Oh no, we got to throw together some plan. Like, no, we could have done this a while ago.
No, like they're literally still brainstorming ideas. They're like, okay, we're going to have the mentors. We've already decided that. Maybe it'll involve some interviews. Maybe we could like try and let's like discuss this as a group. Let's brainstorm.
Who's in charge of this authoritarian regime?
There is an actual Gamemaker, which we will get into, that puts this together. What is she doing in her spare time?
Maybe this whole series is like a backhanded way to, or like a backdoor way to disparage game makers or something as being incompetent. Apparently, they're the ones who always fail at making anything work in the Hunger Games, and it would have been perfect without them.
I think it's disparaging dystopic regimes. So,
well, that's not hard.
So they all know as a society, as this group of people who are running the games, that if the games are going to continue, they need to evolve into a more meaningful experience, quote unquote. So they're trying to like figure out how to do that. Why they didn't figure this out months before, no idea, but they're figuring it out right now. And so Snow shows up to his, I'm going to call him Coriolanus, Sam, because crazy name. Coriolanus.
It's more fun to say, sure. Call him Corey. Corey for short.
I think one of the characters does that, actually. So he shows up to his school. He's clearly well-liked. He's very charismatic. He's stopping to talk to various students and staff as he makes his way to the venue. He's one of the top students there.
Sure.
And as he's talking to his friends, they note that another student comes in named Sejanus Blint. And Coriolanus, immediately talks his outfit, which reeks of money. And we get this backstory on Sejanus, which is his family is originally from District 2 in manufacturing, but profited off of the war with munitions, and they donated large sums to the rebuilding of the school. Why the capital streets are still filled with things, no idea. But they essentially bought their way into the capital, which is very unusual. And so Sejanus is obviously like kind of like almost a new money situation in that he's not well liked at this school that has all capital students, and he's like the one-off from the districts. So Coriolanus finds this family particularly loathsome because his family had invested in munitions as well, like Coriolanus's family had, but only in District 13, which had ended up starting the war, and the district had been nuked, losing them most of their money, and they had not really diversified. Like, that was where most of their money was caught up.
Well, that's just bad business planning. Hey, you
terrible.
know the rebel district that is against the capital? Let's invest in our weapon manufacturing there, because what could possibly go wrong?
Well, originally it wasn't against the capital, right? But as soon as you heard inklings that it was going to be, you think you could draw your money out of there. No, he didn't do that. So he kind of feels like Sejanus has sort of taken his place as this very, like, wealthy, affluent, important family, and with munitions, which is like, you know, what he did. So he's not a big fan of Sejanus. Ultimately, though, Coriolanus thought that ignoring Sejanus rather than baiting him with the others was a better tactic, because it showed, one, that Sejanus was beneath him, right? So like to his friends, it was like, oh, it doesn't even matter to me that this dude's here. But it also gave Sejanus, who is from a very wealthy, affluent, important family, the illusion of him being decent in comparison. So Sejanus thinks that Coriolanus is like a good friend of his.
Oh, okay. So he's like pretending to be
both
friendly.
Sides.
Yeah.
So Sejanus steps up to the group there and starts talking to Coriolanus, and they engage in conversation, and he mentions that his family is moving soon. They're going to move closer to the school where the well-known capital residents live, because he heard that they're going to start taxing the properties in the capital, and his family's taking advantage of the ones that are going to end up having to sell because they can't afford the taxes post-war.
Ooh.
Right. And obviously this panics Coriolanus because he's like, I live in that area. Like, they've never taxed us before and we can't afford it, but nobody knows that. So he's like internally panicking at this news.
Again, I don't know if that's a good move by the regime here to tax your best supporters to the point where they resent you, but what do I know?
Well, I think what this book was trying to say is that, like, they're low on funds, I got imagine. That. And so it kind of validates the, like, streets and the stuff like that. But yes, I agree that taxing your prime residence is probably not the best thing to do.
You would probably find some way to, like, spin it as all the wealthy families shall make a contribution to the beautification project or whatever, as some, demonstration of fealty.
But I wouldn't call it a house tax, no.
Exactly.
So he realizes, obviously, it's now imperative that he gets assigned a good tribute and that he does well in the Hunger Games. Otherwise, he's screwed, right? He needs the money to do the college. He needs the money to give to his family.
Let me ask you, Danielle.
Yes.
Well, as you're reading this book, knowing Snow is the big bad in the subsequent books, how empathetic do you feel? How much do you identify with his character?
Okay.
How should you root for him as the protagonist?
This is super interesting, actually, because...
I was going to say.
Yeah, so there was a big kerfuffle thing when this came out. Like, people had big discussions about whether or not they should have made Snow, like, a character you could empathize with. Like, why write that book? And I think that she actually does a pretty good job of writing a character who's, like, sort of conflicted. He's got good parts and bad parts. He's close to his cousin. He can clearly, like, occasionally feel good emotions, like positive emotions in relationships.
Empathy, all that kind of stuff,
But he's also, I'm going to skip a lot of his backstory from this. It's just not as super relevant. But, like, he also was raised during a war as a child. He saw people eaten. He saw wartime. He got bombed on.
Boy,
like, it's like he had a terrible childhood. But like, people have terrible childhoods and don't turn into crazy dictators, right? Like, that's not
exactly. That's not an excuse.
Thing. But that she does a really good job, I think, of walking the line of, like, this person occasionally has empathy. He knows maybe what the right decisions are, but he is choosing over and over and over again to not make those good decisions. Wrong decisions. And he, like, becomes, over the course of this, it's 550 pages or something, this novel. He slowly, over the course of this novel, becomes less and less empathetic to other people. So you see that creation of him becoming this, like, basically a psychopath. By the end of this, he's detaching. He's, like, validating anything he's doing. He's gaslighting other people. He's, like, spoiler, obviously. He turns into a dictator. But
that's
you
very
see him,
interesting.
Yeah, you see that it's all narcissistic. It's all like, I validate this because that's the best decision for me or my family. Like, I can validate doing this. And, like, everything's self-motivated for him. So I never thought he was that empathetic as a character. You kind of read this going, oh, maybe I don't like this guy. He's kind of a jerk, but maybe it'll, like, he has a couple redeeming features. Maybe that'll redeem him, but not really. And then you're like, oh, that's right. He becomes a dictator. He's terrible anyway. Like,
That's very interesting because not a lot of, like, prequels to popular media go for that kind of nuance. Either make the character, like, evil from the start or, like, provide some BS, like, justification for them having a terrible childhood, which, like, explains them and something like, oh, or like I said, go the other way, make them too empathetic or try to make them too human. And you're like, well, that doesn't really excuse what happened in the later books or whatever.
Yeah,
or
I don't
movies.
think this tries to justify his actions at all. I think it's like, this is his personality and it's maybe he had these traits from the get-go, but his lifestyle made them even worse. His life that happened to him made them even worse. I never found him an empathetic character.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
It was interesting to read. It's one of the reasons I'm not sure I liked it. Like, the book runs long. I have other feelings about how it's written, but, like, the character is hard to read because you're like, I don't know if I like this character, and it's hard to stick with a character for 500 pages that you're like, wow, you're kind of doing terrible things, bud.
Well, I'm as much as that sounds weird, I'm glad to hear that. I like to hear a little nuance in a story like this.
Yeah, it's interesting. So as he's just, thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to have to do really well at this, Dean Casca Highbottom, the man credited with the creation of the Hunger Games, presents himself to the students and does his little speech. Wait,
can you say his name again, just for fun?
Casca Highbottom.
Yep, okay, great. I didn't miss it.
He's played in the movie. He's played by Peter Dinklage, which is kind of great.
Oh, I love Peter Dinklage.
Yeah. So the man, like I said, he's credited with the creation of the Hunger Games. He is well known that Highbottom has a morphling addiction, but he still holds a lot of...
morphling?
Morphling. That's what it's called.
It's okay.
It's
So
like your super morphine.
ultra morphine. I was about to say I have period. I have ultra morphine. You have morphling. Great. Perfect. Love it.
So he still holds a lot of power due to his status, but he's becoming less and less liked in the system, because he's basically high all the time.
Okay, great.
So it's clear from the get-go that the tributes have not been assigned at random, like, they told them it probably would be. And Coriolanus starts to get nervous as the tributes who tend to win are assigned to others. And you might remember from the original books, that's like District 1, District 2, the ones that are closest to the capital who have the career tributes that they've been training since they were kids, the best resources. The ones that are from the fishermen districts that are much more like workhorses, that kind of thing. Those are the ones that tend to do really well in the games. And that's still true even 10 years into the games. And so as this goes on, everybody's being assigned tributes. It's obvious that basically people have paid to have their tribute assigned to their kid or whatever. And he knows that he's never been a favorite of Highbottom's, but he's also one of the Academy's best students. So he thought maybe that would even out and he might get a decent one. But he's assigned, of course.
No, welcome to Money in District 12, I'm guessing.
Yeah. So he's assigned the last and apparently worst position, which is the girl from 12, which was Katniss Everdeen originally.
Yes, in the future / past books, this will be Katniss Everdeen, or was Katniss Everdeen.
So he obviously hides his panic because it's not the appropriate time to show that. He congratulates the others, but when he goes to congratulate Sejanus, the boy looks absolutely miserable. And he's like, what's wrong with you? You got District 2. That's one of the best districts to get. You're going to do great. And Sejanus reminds him, hey, I came from District 2. I'm going to know the tribute. I went to school with the people who are up to be tribute.
Oh, that's rough.
Yeah. And
I think his parents would have bought him a better tribute
No,
then.
his parents bought him District 2 because they think he's too attached to his, basically a rebel sympathizer.
Insane.
Absolutely crazy.
Crazy. Now, again, I believe some crazy parents would do some nonsense like that because that happens, but bonkers. That's not going to help your cause.
Yeah, specifically his dad, who's just does he's the one that forced them to move to the capital, and Sejanus is very against it. So Coriolanus, even though he's being polite to Sejanus, he's that's sentimental nonsense. He's lived here for 10 years. His privileged life is completely wasted on this kid. People would kill for number 2, and you got District 2. So as they're talking, curtains on a dais part, and a giant screen appears where they watch the reaping live, just like you would in the original Hunger Games.
Sure.
So I guess it starts with District 12 as they move from east to west coast. And District 12, just for kicks and giggles, is I think West Virginia, Ohio, that area right there, Kentucky.
How big are these districts? I thought they're just a single city.
So my understanding, I actually Googled this because I was deep diving into this. I was curious because I go into the district a little bit more here, is usually there's a prime area where everybody lives because that's where the resources are. And so a lot of the rest of the state or states are empty. So District 12 is estimated to have 8,000 people in it or something. But for example, the bigger districts in 4 or 7 or whatever it is along the Pacific Northwest are supposed to have 100,000 people in their district. So it really depends on where you are.
Sure. But large area, sparsely populated. So even though the district covers 3 states, people only ever actually live in one part of it that matters.
Correct. Yeah. They live in basically one city area of it. So the District 12 starts as they move forward, and the mayor steps onto the stage, and he pulls out a slip of paper from the bag and reads it to the audience. And he says, the District 12 girl tribute is Lucy Gray Baird. And the camera sweeps over the crowd, and the students give a surprised murmur as the camera zooms in on her, and she's dressed in this dress made of rainbow ruffles, which, in comparison to the rest of the district, which is coal mining, is very gray.
Sure.
And as she begins her journey to the stage, she doesn't head down the aisle. She weaves through the girls instead. And quickly, she dips her hand into one of the ruffles and pulls out something green, and she deposits it in the back down the collar of a smirking redhead that she walks past, and then she keeps moving on. So the redhead starts screaming and falls to the ground, trying to pull her clothes off as the mayor rushes off the stage, screaming that his daughter needs help. What?
It was like a scorpion she put down the girl's neck?
We'll find out. And Lucy just continues to make her way up the stage. The mayor breaks into the clearing surrounding his daughter, who's the redhead, and a small green snake shoots out of the folds of his daughter's dress.
I should have guessed that from the title of the book.
There you go, Sam.
Oh.
So the daughter's carted off. She's fine. It wasn't a snake that was going to kill her, but she's like wildly embarrassed. She peed herself. Like, it's not good. It's on public television, like.
So Snow has found a kindred spirit who is ruthless and cruel to help him win the Hunger Games. How convenient.
Well, we'll see, Sam.
Okay.
So Coriolanus fluctuates kind of between hope, like, oh, maybe this girl actually has something, District 12 generally has always lost, but like maybe this is the one, and concern that she might actually be like mentally unwell, like something's wrong with her.
Fair.
Time's running out in the district. They're trying to move on to District 11, but so the mayor like heads back up to the podium, but instead of pulling the name of the boy from the bag, he ends up smacking Lucy Gray instead. And she falls to the ground. And the camera like zooms in on her. She's trying to pull herself together. And Coriolanus is like, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. Because it's like going to show weakness on, the Hunger Games TV. Yeah. And he looks around the venue at the other students and the staff. And they're all like riveted on this woman. And he basically, he realizes that Lucy Gray's won their sympathy, that like, she might be not a winner, but like might make it a little bit farther in the games than he anticipated.
So this is the genesis of the idea of this is a reality TV show where you're trying to like build a story and characters, all that kind of thing.
Bingo dingo.
Okay. Oh, what? There's a dingo in here? No! I'm not prepared for Australian wildlife.
Okay. So Janus leans over at him and wonders if maybe the mayor rigged it so that she was pulled for the reaping, since Lucy Gray seemed to have it out for the mayor's daughter,
Mm-hmm.
But just as Lucy Gray is about to cry, as she's like still on the ground, a voice from the crowd begins to sing. And Lucy Gray perks up.
Is this the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes?
I need to tell you how much singing is in this book, Sam. And how much better it translates to a movie.
Yeah.
It's basically a musical.
Is this like the Lord of the Rings where there's like a song that you can skip every few pages, or is this like the Hyperion where there's a poem that you can skip every chapter?
I would say chapters. There's like a song. It's not constant, and I will 100% just put it out there that I skimmed most of these because they're relevant songs, but they're like, okay, I got it.
At least in Lord of the Rings, like the books, the songs were at least provided like historical context usually, or backstory or something. Yeah,
these are more like, and these are interesting in that they're sometimes referenced in the Hunger Games, so they're like, oh, that's where that song came from, or whatever. And music plays a big part of this, so I guess it makes sense to have some of the song lyrics in there.
Sure.
The writer also puts the list of the tributes and their mentors in it multiple times as he crosses off names, and I'm like, I got it. I know who's dying. I didn't need to like see. I don't need a list of crossed off names 4 times in a book.
Interesting. You know what? I miss books like this. This was the kind of book that, usually would have like a map in the front and a list of characters in the back, and maybe a biblia, or maybe a glossary as well.
Yes, right. So Lucy perks up as she hears the singing, and she suddenly pushes herself to stand and rushes to the microphone that's on stage and begins to sing. And Coriolanus, she's a good voice. Coriolanus realizes that the dress and the heavy makeup that this girl's wearing suggests that she may actually just be a performer, like that's her job or something she does a lot of. Mm-hmm. And the song, of course, is a parallel about how they can't take it all away from her, and anything they take wasn't worth keeping, blah, 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 etc.
Yeah.
So she's eventually dragged off to the side of the stage by the peacekeepers as she's like dodging them to try and finish her number, and they're like trying to catch her off the stage, which
True
is funny.
Professional, show must go on.
And the crowd at the school turns to Coriolanus, like curious who's been assigned to this like crazy girl. She's singing, like, oh, whoever got her is so lucky, and she's making such a statement. So they're all looking for her, and he's like preening. So the mayor reads the District 12 boy's name. His name's Jessup Diggs, and Lucy Gray bows before being carted off the stage.
Sure.
Coriolanus begins thinking of his battle plan like immediately. He's obviously going to try and use her musical skills to endear her to the public and whatever that entails to get a better grade on the assignment. It's interesting because they're basically like these students, even though they don't like the Hunger Games, like they don't watch them really, they don't want to watch them. They're like acting like they're not humans. They're like, oh, I've got to get a better grade on this assignment.
Right.
It's wild.
they're acting like this is just something they have to complete, not about the people or anything like that.
Like a talent show or something. Like it's it's crazy. It's just so dehumanizing, which isn't obviously the point of it, but it's very interesting.
Yes, of course.
So, and the idea that you're going to use students from the Capitol who are like dehumanize these kids from the districts as mentors is a wild take.
Well, that was sort of my question from the beginning. Like, why if you're trying to dehumanize these people, are you then trying to rehumanize? And that's not a word, but let's pretend it is. Rehumanize them with this whole. It doesn't make any sense to me. But again, I'm not.
You're just gonna have more questions, Sam, as we go along. I promise.
Okay,
because this version of the Hunger Games makes so little sense to me. I'm just gonna tell you up front.
It makes less sense than the other.
It makes less sense. You'll see why it makes less sense as we get into it.
I thought the Hunger Games was already a dumb idea to begin with, but here we are.
Yeah, but think of a Hunger Games like down to the most basic premise of the Hunger Games with none of the pageantry, none of the show, and then go, why in the world are we doing this for 10 years? Like, think about it while I'm talking about it.
I mean, again, this reminds. I haven't seen it entirely, but in Battle Royale, you know, the I think the Japanese movie, right?
Yeah, and maybe a book. I think it started as a book.
Yeah, in a book. Yeah, of course. But like, wasn't the whole thing about this? It was like it was a TV show. It was entertainment. It wasn't about sending a message. It was about providing people with this awful, thing to thinking like, this is what people really want. They want this terrible murder show because they are sick like that. People love that stuff.
Honestly, that actually kind of plays into a little bit of, we'll get into it more when we meet the Gamemaker, but like her thoughts on it versus Snow's thoughts on it are conflicting.
Right. Got it.
So the reaping ends and the students go off to eat their meal as they all chat and socialize, and Coriolanus is trying to take basically as much food as possible, but trying to be very overt about it because, he doesn't want people to know that he needs the food.
Yeah, of course.
And he's interrupted by Highbottom, who's pushing a large piece of pie at him as he tries to take like a medium, smaller sized one. And he asks Coriolanus what his plans are for after he graduates. And Coriolanus is like, well, duh, I'm going to university, but nicely. Because like, why are you asking this? Is a weird question. You know what I'm doing. The dean seems, as I said, to already know this, but asks what he should do if he doesn't win the prize. And Coriolanus is thrown off. And he's like, well, I'd pay the tuition, of course. Like, I'd still go to the university. And Highbottom starts to laugh. He's like, oh, would you? He says, quote, look at you in your makeshift shirt and your too tight shoes trying to hold it together, strutting around the Capitol when I doubt the Snows have a pot to piss in. Even with a prize, it would be a stretch. What then would happen to you? What then?
Why is he being a jerk?
Well, we'll find out, won't we?
Okay.
Coriolanus looks around, obviously very afraid that somebody had overheard them, but they're all busy socializing and eating and stuff. And Highbottom tells him not to worry, hardly anyone knows, and he walks off. And now, like, absolutely terrified that news is going to get out. He realizes he really has to step it up because, again, money. If only we could survive without it.
Yeah, right? Well, we could in a different world.
But not this one. So the next day, or someday, one of the days, Coriolanus is... I assume these are consecutive days, but I have no proof of that. So the next day, Coriolanus is waiting on an empty train platform for the tribute's arrival. He's by himself. He's got a rose in his hand, Tigress's idea, after he had confided in her about the reaping and his concerns. And she thinks Lucy Gray could do well, or at least, make it farther than most District 12 kids. She was a big hit with the Capitol, but he'd have to make a good first impression, or otherwise she's not going to want to work with him, obviously. And so Tigress suggests that he doesn't treat her as a prisoner, but like as a guest to the Capitol.
What a novel concept.
It is, actually, apparently. Didn't occur to him.
That says a lot about him, I guess.
Yeah, Tigress is like the empathetic one in this relationship. She's the one that's like, she's got to be scared and alone. And, if you cared about her, it'd probably go a long ways. And so, no, it's not directly against the rules. He knows that meeting his tribute ahead of time was going to be frowned upon, obviously. It's like not something anybody else is doing with it, but he decides to run with it, What are they going to do?
Yeah, you got to make some, take some risks, right?
So he's expecting a passenger train, but a cargo train pulls up. And a peacekeeper arrives sometime later to herd them out of the car. So they're being kept in like one or two of the cars. And they're
like a cattle, yeah.
Exactly, a cattle. And they're being prodded out. Jessup steps out first, the District 12 boy, and he's quickly followed by Lucy Gray, and Coriolanus steels himself and approaches. And he welcomes her to the Capitol and extends the rose. Lucy Gray immediately sizes him up, and she just kind of like stares at him. And then she plucks a petal from the rose, and she says, "When I was little, they used to bathe me in buttermilk and rose petals." And then she runs her fingers over the petal before putting it in her mouth and chewing it, seeming to savor the flavor of the rose. And she says, tastes like bedtime.
What?
So funny.
Is this supposed to be like manic pixie dream girl stuff, or is she just literally insane? Okay.
She's a little manic pixie dream girl, but in like tribute form.
What a choice.
A murdering manic pixie dream girl.
She seems violent. That's good.
We'll find out.
For Snow, I mean.
She's much different than her original, like, quirky. I don't know if she's much different, but she's an interesting character. But this is all from the perspective of Snow. This entire book is from the perspective of Coriolanus. And so we get very little. It's a very unreliable narrator, and we get very little from Lucy Gray. So
that's fair.
Lucy Gray wonders what he's doing there, and he explains, like, "Oh, I'm your mentor, and I wanted to meet you on my own terms, not the Gamemaker's." And he says he's there to take care of her. And she likes the idea that he's, like, there to meet her on his own terms, thinks that's kind of rebellious, which Coriolanus is like, "I'm not a rebel." No. So she wishes him luck at taking care of her and heads off as peacekeepers round them up. He's like, "No, that wasn't enough. Like, I don't feel like I made a good first impression. I'm going to miss my opportunity." So he asks the peacekeepers if he can join the party, like going into town, if he can hitch a ride on the truck that they're taking them in on. And the peacekeepers find this like very amusing, like, "Sure, rich boy, get in." And he's shocked when they lead him to a large cage that's attached to the bed of a truck, and they're all like loaded in there.
Yeah, you think, dude? How do you think the people were treated?
Apparently much better than they're actually treated. So obviously
Insane.
He immediately knows he's made a mistake. He's like, "I'm like trapped inside of this big box with a bunch of tributes." And they quote, as they stare at him like a pack of feral animals.
They probably resent this rich boy. He's like,
100%.
"Oh, this isn't effective." Yeah. What a dingus.
Yeah, a handful of tributes quickly turn on him. And one suggests they kill him, as obviously the people can't do much more to them than they're already doing.
Right. What are they going to do? Murder us?
So, and just as they approach him to take him down, Lucy Gray reminds them that the Capitol may not be able to do much more to them, but they can certainly harden their families or friends back home. And besides, he's her mentor and she might need him. She's just pretty low-key. The others are suspicious, wondering why she gets a mentor and how come nobody else gets a mentor. And Coriolanus is like, "Well, you all get one." And Lucy Gray just says that he's the only one that was inspired enough to have met them at the train.
Ooh.
So the truck comes up to these two large doors, and they swing open to let the truck back into them before the whole cage is tilted like a dump truck, and they slide down a concrete slab. And they land.
That seems unnecessary.
This whole book, Sam, is unnecessary.
I mean, fair.
So in the dirt, 20 feet below, they just like slide down this ramp. He looks around and he quickly realizes, any idea where they're being housed, Sam?
Oh gosh, is it the arena?
No, they're not in the arena.
It's a school.
No. You're
a zoo.
There you go.
Oh, third guess. Okay.
They're dumped into the monkey house at the zoo. I guess they were kept in the stables the previous year, or at least that's what Coriolanus thought he remembered. Nope, this year it is the monkey house at the zoo.
With the monkeys.
There's no monkeys.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, there's no monkeys. I had to think about that. I don't think there's monkeys. It's just like, I think an abandoned zoo. I think most of the stuff in this town or city is
abandoned,
Yeah. I don't know. They probably bombed and all the monkeys got out and they're running amongst the streets.
Well, they haven't cleared up the streets yet. Why aren't the monkeys doing it? Monkey patrol, cleaning up the streets.
They could probably do that. It's not like they can't use like biology.
Tools.
Yeah, like to make them fancy monkeys. They do that.
That's right. I remember they did a whole bunch of weird genetic experiments in the third book.
We'll get into that.
Oh boy.
So a crowd is amassed along the bars to the enclosure with the news crews pointing cameras down at the new arrivals. And people obviously begin noticing his school uniform that he's wearing, and he freezes, afraid to make a run for it on live TV because that's embarrassing, or having any kind of reaction, also embarrassing. And he's just hoping that maybe the peacekeepers or somebody else will come in and
luckily,
and get
Lucy
him out.
Gray's there to probably pull him out of this sticky situation because she's a better improviser than he is.
Kind of. A little bit. She gives him some a little kick in the butt. So he straightens up. He tries to look bored, like he's meant to be there. He's like, somebody suddenly recognizes him, and his name starts to spread, and he like starts to have like a little panic attack, like, oh my God, they're going to know that I'm going to be on TV. This is going to be terrible. And obviously, to his surprise, Lucy Gray sidles up beside him and softly says, "Own it."
Yeah, duh. Why did I not even think of that?
He's never been in this situation before, Sam.
Yeah, she has?
Yes. So
she's been in a cage in front of TV crews. Yeah, no, don't think so.
No, but she's, like you said, more of a performer, so it's kind of her thing.
Okay.
So he's like, you're like, yeah, obviously I've got to make it look intentional or we're going to lose before we even begin. So he extends his hand to her, trying to pretend that they were like on stage doing a play. And he asks her loudly if she'd like to meet some of his neighbors. And she states she'd be delighted. And he takes her up to the bars to meet the spectators, starting with the children. And he asks them if they'd like to meet his new friend, and they eagerly rush forward. And Lucy Gray introduces herself. She starts shaking hands. She's chatting with the kids. And then she kind of like pretends to stumble upon the news crew as she like, goes down the line.
Oh, you have a camera here? I had no idea.
That's exactly what she does. She's like, oh, you have a camera. You're filming?
No, like, let me get my good angle.
She actually, because she has a huge bruise from being slapped by the mayor. So she
puts that prominent, probably.
She tells him, she's like, my left side's better, or whatever she says.
Great. Perfect. I kind of love it.
Yeah, she's pretty good. The reporter asks her to confirm that she's a tribute from 12, and Lucy Gray explains that she's not really from 12. Her people are Covey. They're musicians by trade. They just happened to be in 12 when the ability to travel between districts was stopped during the war. So that's where they've stayed. She explains her dress was her mother's, and the Covey-like color, but her more than most. And she introduces Coriolanus, telling, this is my mentor, talking him up to the reporter about how amazing he's been.
Sure.
So they're a big hit with the crowd.
She realizes that,
this is the only way she's going to, the only way she might survive even a little bit.
Yep.
So they're a big hit with the crowd as they answer questions about how he ended up there and if he'll get in trouble at school, just as the peacekeepers march in to get him. So they wrap up the interview, and he casually walks over to the peacekeepers like, oh, I was waiting for you,
Yeah.
And he meets them, and they agree to walk him out of the enclosure. But they do have orders to escort him to the academy. And he thinks he's going to be taken to the office, but he's deposited outside of the High Biology Lab.
No, how is that spelled?
H-I-G-H.
Okay, they didn't clarify anything.
Up high.
Oh, okay. Or I was thinking more like a High Inquisitor or something like that.
It
lofty.
kind of. I put it in there because I thought you would get a kick out of that.
What a name!
But it goes.
Is there also like low biology?
I think it's just either the biology lab or the high biology lab. And it does go on to say that it's restricted to senior students most gifted in the science. So I have to assume high biology lab means the fancy biology lab where all the smart kids are.
You could just say like advanced biology or whatever.
And considering this is the United States and not like Britain or something like that, I'm not entirely sure why we call it the high biology lab.
Well, they have to have the high biology lab with the high T.
He heads in and meets Dean Highbottom and one...
Great. Well, right, he's there. A Highbottom in the high biology lab. Perfect.
And one Dr. Volumnia Gall.
Well, he's got a lot of gall to introduce himself to that guy. Hey-o!
Girl.
Whatever.
She's the head Gamemaker and mastermind behind the Capitol's Experimental Weapons Division.
Whoa!
She's described as a small, stooped old woman with frizzy gray hair who was teasing a caged rabbit with a metal rod, and the rabbit, genetically modified, yanks the rod from her hand and snaps it in two.
I like her. She's feisty.
She is feisty. Gall has unnerved Coriolanus since he was a child, and he worries that he's about to lose his mentorship. Why else would he be brought to the person who runs the Hunger Games? That runs everything.
I want you to turn this into a media spectacle.
Kind of. But she looks up at him and grins. She says, hippity hoppity, referencing the rabbit. How was the zoo? Then she laughs in delight. It's like a children's rhyme. She says, hippity hoppity, how was the zoo? You fell in a cage and your tribute did too.
Boo. I've heard better rhymes.
On the fly, Sam?
Yeah.
He smiles weakly, and he kind of looks over to Highbottom like, what am I supposed to do with her? but Highbottom is ignoring them. And Coriolanus is like, yeah, I guess I did. And then she's just obviously just waiting for him. She's like, so he goes, well, we did. We fell in a cage. And we landed on stage, and that seems to absolutely delight her. And she compliments him on being good at games, musing that maybe one day he'll be a game maker.
Okay, sure. He made one rhyme, which is good at games.
Yeah, I know. Crazy. I thought that the first time I read it, too. I was like, what? Maybe she knows him better.
He's good at maybe, like, media manipulation or propagandist, but I wouldn't say, oh, this has shown me how good you are at playing games.
I think she means, like, the game of life.
That's a terrible game. That game is a terrible game. I hate that game.
It's a very long game. It's worse than Monopoly.
It's also much more depressing than Monopoly.
It is.
Monopoly, you can rage quit.
Steal all the money.
Yeah, and run.
Heist.
Yeah, exactly. You plan your heist and you like try to sneak notes from the bank.
Monopoly is the wildest game when you think about it. We joke that it's like really boring, really long, but like that is there's so many house rules. People do crazy stuff in that game. People steal in that game.
Because the game is so terrible, intentionally terrible. I forget what's her name, the school teacher who invented the landlord's game, everything like that. But yeah. Intentionally terrible. And so we have to make it better.
So funny.
Anyway, very good.
So Coriolanus thinks to himself that he's never considered working as a game maker because it doesn't seem like much of a job if you just toss kids into the arena to fight it out. And he was really hoping for a more challenging career, which, valid point, Coriolanus.
I mean, I kind of, but also like, if it pays well, you're not really in a position here to be like judgy.
Yeah, well, he's very judgy.
I've noticed.
She asks him why he went into the cage with the tributes, and he explains that he didn't think Lucy Gray would stand much of a chance in the actual games, but that wasn't the point. They were told they had to engage the audience and get people to watch, so that's what he was doing. She seems to approve, but Highbottom thinks he's just showboating for a better grade, which, he is. And he asks...
Yeah, but both can be true.
That's true. And he asks Coriolanus...
If the point of the grade is to get people to watch, then by getting people to watch, you improve your grade, like, intrinsically,
Agreed.
One is the same as the other.
Agreed. So he asks Coriolanus what the purpose of the Hunger Games is. And Coriolanus...
Here we go.
No, here we don't go.
Oh, no! What? No!
Coriolanus answers very rotely that it's to punish the districts for the rebellion, which is like the line that they use.
Yeah. You know the history books, yeah.
And Highbottom is like, yeah, but why the Hunger Games? Why not literally anything else? We could stop food, we could bomb, we could, whatever. We could do so many things. Why the Hunger Games? And he thinks back to Lucy Gray and how people were so captivated by her and suggests it's because that children matter to people more than adults. But then he thinks about his own childhood during the war and how he was starving, how people stole from him, he abused him. So he falters on his answer and he admits that he has no idea why they have the Hunger Games. And Highbottom looks over to Dr. Gold and is like, you see, it's a failed experiment. He doesn't even know why we do the Hunger Games.
Because you guys are terrible at communicating things. This is school. If he's not learned something, it's your fault. Or at least partly.
Yeah, well, Gull believes it's only failed if no one watches them. And she tells Highbottom to give Coriolanus some time because she's got a good feeling about him. And she goes off to see her new reptiles, and Highbottom tells him that he's receiving a demerit, and if he gets 3 of those, he'll be expelled. So he's on warning.
Thin ice.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thin snow?
Hey. This is like a whole thing. I didn't get into this, but there's a whole thing during this book where he keeps saying snow falls on top. That's like the whole thing.
Yeah, but it falls on top of other snow, which is down on the bottom. Like, that's how snow works.
So he heads back to the zoo. Coriolanus heads back to the zoo and meets up with Sejanus, who's really struggling with the whole, I'm mentoring a guy I know from District True thing, which, fair.
Fair, yeah, valid. So
he takes some sandwich. Sejanus brought like a whole bag full of sandwiches. So he takes some and he goes over to Lucy Gray and offers one to her. And she ends up giving one back, being like, let's have a picnic, because she can tell that he's obviously hungry, and she clocks pretty quickly that he's, having a hard time. And so they eat with the bars separating them. And she's
remarkably apathetic.
Yes. We find out quickly that the Capitol is not feeding the tributes, which is wild to me.
Well, I mean, again, if this is supposed to emulate gladiatorial combat, gladiators were pretty well taken care of, because a bunch of emaciated weaklings is not good spectacle.
Yeah, why would you want a bunch of people to be starving to death before they fight? What is the point of that?
Yeah, like, if they have no energy, they have no joie, I don't want to say joie de vivre, but
they have no reason to win. Like, willpower to win.
Exactly. You want them to have, again, I'm not saying this is good. I'm not trying to say, yay, Hunger Game. I'm just saying, if you're going to do Hunger Games, do it right.
Agreed. This is the craziest version of the Hunger Games to me the more we get into it. So in a seminar the next day, they're discussing the games. They're brainstorming ideas on how to get people to watch them. Again, months. Sam, they have a year between games. What have they been doing? Like, the games are happening right now.
Gall sure is a lot of gall to claim the games are being watched. She puts no effort into them.
Like, this is wild to me. I can't believe they are planning the games as they're happening. What kind of nonsense is this?
Utter nonsense. Total nonsense. Amateur hour.
Just crazy. You and I would never do this.
I know we joke a lot about how good we'd be as dictators, but like,
at least we plan the Hunger Games.
Yeah, this is just like basic organizational skills.
So someone suggests making viewing mandatory, like it's a law. And there's a big discussion on like, how do you enforce that? They obviously figure out some way because it is mandatory in the future. And someone points out the real problem isn't like whether or not it's mandatory, it's that it's sickening to watch. So people actively avoid it. Like, they are not watching the Hunger Games. You're just taking their kids and the kids are dying and nobody's watching it. So what's the point?
Yeah, who wants to watch their children die?
Right. So Janice jumps in saying, of course it is. Nobody wants to watch children kill each other. Humans are better than that. And Coriolanus is like, we watched worse during the war. So, like, and someone's like, well, I got more excited over a dogfight. And Coriolanus kind of jokes to like, oh, we could bet on the winners. And the group is like, actually, that's not a terrible idea. And he's like, well, if it goes anywhere, I came up with it.
I mean, adding gambling to it is the obvious first step.
Right.
And that's basically what, again, gladiatorial combo is the same thing.
And yeah, you think they have no history, Sam?
I mean, they bombed all the history away. This is what dictators do, as evidenced by recent events, is they try to erase or rewrite history so people don't realize how terrible they are.
Yeah, well, apparently none of them know about gladiators. I don't think the word gladiator comes up once in this whole book, which is astounding to me because that's all this is.
That is bonkers. Yes, again, modern, future, whatever Hunger Games, they do more than just throw people into an arena and say, go at it with sticks or whatever.
Right.
This is just basic gladiatorial combat.
Yeah. And not even well put together. It's like the B level, school project version of gladiators.
This isn't like when they used to flood the Colosseum to recreate naval battles or things like that.
Exactly that. So over the course of the day, he's kind of thinking more and more on the idea of gambling. He's like, that might actually have some merit. And they wrap up I skipped a lot of stuff, Sam. Like, he meets with Lucy Gray a few times. I'm skipping all of that because it's just not super relevant. Let's just assume he's starting a relationship with Lucy Gray. Like, he's getting to know her better. She's getting to know him. Blah, blah, blah.
Fair enough.
So they wrap up this meetup with the tributes and they have a meeting with Gall and Highbottom where Gall overhears Sejanus like complaining about the games and how terrible they are. And he's like, no, more people should be empathetic. If we had more empathetic people watch, like, the games would be doing better. Like, we should show some empathy to these people. And like, she's been in charge of it for years. Where was the empathy before Dr. Gall?
But also, again, I mean, maybe I'm naive, but I think people with more empathy would find it harder to watch a bunch of children murder each other.
She's not saying that the people watching need to be empathetic. I mean, yes, but she's saying that they need to potentially treat the tributes more empathetically. And like, This is like the early stages of like, well, if we give them hope, then maybe but that's not quite there yet. It's just like, well, maybe we should feed them occasionally. Like, you know.
Like, understood. Got it.
So she suggests like, oh, more people should have empathy. Like Sejanus says, what if we allow food to the tributes during the games, show a little compassion to rev up support. And someone suggests that they should be allowed to bet on the ones that they are feeding, like a reward system. And they credit Coriolanus with the idea of the betting. And she's like, oh, of course Coriolanus came up with that. What a good student he is.
Of course. I bet Sejanus is not going to be upset about that at all.
Dr. Gall assigns them with the group project to come up with the ideas for the games, and she'll implement the best of the ideas. Again, the games are happening like tomorrow. All right, that evening, he takes food again to Lucy Gray at the zoo, and she makes the rounds, ingratiating herself with some of the folks that have come to watch. She wistfully tells Coriolanus that she wishes they had met under different circumstances. And
trying to play up the romance angle.
Yeah, and I have feelings about that. And they discuss
I bet.
Red Flag City, man. What are you doing, Lucy Gray?
I mean, to be fair to Lucy Gray, she's about to be murdered, so like...
she can have a crush on anybody she wants to, but like...
No, not saying she has a crush on him. Like, is she really have a crush on him, or is she playing it up for the cameras?
I cannot tell you anything about their relationship at this point, Sam.
Okay,
because
fair enough.
Plot.
Okay. Because my first assumption was this was part of her, like, ingratiating herself to the media and the people, but like, oh, if I was... not a tribute. I could have a relationship here. I could be.
This is a private conversation that she's having with Cornelius. The idea that she wishes they could have met under different circumstances. This is a private conversation. Maybe she's playing
him. I don't know. Like either
Quite
way,
possible. I will.
From what I've heard of her character so far, this would not seem like a genuine romantic interest.
Yeah, I will neither confirm nor deny. And I will tell you that at this point in the novel, it feels like she probably does kind of like him. They seem to have developed a working relationship at least.
Well, wild then. Then I don't get it.
It's from his perspective, and that might change. I'm not going to tell you if it changes or not. But.
Sure.
So they kind of imagine different scenarios of where they might have, met or whatever. And a couple of the district kids from 6 do a little dance to, just to get filmed on TV because they realize that they have to be doing stuff in order to get, potential food or whatever in the Hunger Games. They
need attention.
Yeah, and the atmosphere becomes kind of celebratory as much as that ever would be as they all show off their skills. And nearby, one of the girls from his homework group that's supposed to be working on the project that evening is talking to her tribute from 10 and makes her a large cheese sandwich. She's cutting off slices of cheese, putting them in the bread. But instead of handing it over, she seems to be lecturing to her about something. And when the girl reaches...
Just give her the freaking sandwich. You can talk to her while she eats.
Yeah. When the girl reaches for it, Arachne, Arachne? Really? That's the name of the mentor.
Arachne. She's named Spider. Got it.
Spider. The spider Arachne pulls it back, and the crowd laughs. And Arachne realizes she's getting attention, and so she starts to play the gag a couple of times, handing it to the tribute.
That's not going to go over well.
You think? And Lucy Gray says that exact same thing. That's a bad idea. She's playing with fire.
Everyone's going to hate her for being a jerk to this tribute.
Well, before Coriolanus can say anything, he watches the tribute grab the abandoned cheese knife through the bars, and he slits Arachne's throat. She slits Arachne's throat. I don't remember which one it is. Anyway.
Wow.
Arachne.
Just kills her upright.
Dead.
Insane, but also if I was a tribute, I'd be like, what are you going to do? Again? Kill me? I get it. I get they can bust their families or whatever, but Arachne's still dead, so.
And then she eats the cheese sandwich.
Insane.
Coriolanus runs over to try and help, but the peacekeepers pull him away and lead him off, and Arachne dies. That night, Coriolanus pulls himself together, and he writes up the proposal Gaul wanted on the off chance that the games are still happening, and suggests the sponsors can buy items to be delivered by drone, and then also that they should set up a betting panel where the money went back to the games to fund them, so it's cyclical. And he drops the paper off the next morning, and then the school is going through this mourning period. I'm going to skip a lot of that. For Arachne. He and Clemencia, who is the other girl from the study group. So it was him, Arachne, and Clemencia.
Great name. These names are bonkers.
These are so good. The best part of the books is all the crazy names.
Love it.
So Clemencia and Coriolanus are called into Gaul's office. Clemencia begs him to give her the rundown on the paper, surprised he had the wherewithal to write it. She's like, I cried all night. How would, you touched her blood. You tried to save her. How are you functioning well enough? Because he is empathetically not there, Sam.
I got it. I figured, I would also, again, if I was being more generous, just I could say there'd be shock or disassociation or whatever, but yeah, I know he just has no empathy for other people. Yeah, I get it.
You could argue that he's just really good at separating things.
Compartmentalizing.
I'm really good at compartmentalizing. I can see myself writing a paper after something traumatic because you're still going to school the next day and have to turn the paper in. You got
life. You have to focus on life and everything. Yeah.
Anyway, Clemencia gives him a hard time about it, but she supposedly has written half this paper, so he gives her the rundown of what's in it so that she can pretend she helped write it as well.
They're all supposed to write one together, or
it was a group project. So Arachne, Clemencia, and him were supposed to group write this project together, and then Arachne died.
God, I didn't realize there was groups of 3 or whatever.
Yeah, it's groups of 3. So they're led to the reptile cases where Dr. Gaul is stationed, and she's standing over a terrarium filled with multicolored iridescent snakes.
You do.
She's so funny. She asks which one of them wrote the proposal, and Clemencia tells her that they both did, that they wrote it up last night, and she printed it off this morning and had Coriolanus drop it off this morning after that. And
yeah, I don't think she's going to buy that.
She tells them she'd like to go over it, but alas, her assistant has used the pages of the proposal to line the snake tank. If Coriolanus would be a dear and get that first page that's popped up amongst the snakes, that would be great. And Coriolanus...
What's with the snake?
She's so freaking weird, Sam.
I mean, like, you get the snake down the shirt, now we're doing snake cake. Like, it's like Indiana Jones. I hate snakes.
Snakes are a theme.
Well, I got that from the title, Danielle. Thank you.
Oh,
I wonder what they can mean. Snakes that have been used in literature before to represent things.
So Coriolanus nervously sticks his hand in, but the snakes completely ignore him, and he's able to pull one of the pages free. Gaul gestures
Why was this the thing?
Well, just let me get to the point, Sam.
No, I want to know now.
Gaul gestures to Clemencia to do the same with the next page that's in there. And she slowly sticks her hand inside. And as she's doing this...
and dies.
Yeah, no. Well, sort of. Gaul explains the snakes can smell through their tongue, and these have been modified to be even more capable of it. If they have pleasant associations with your scent, they'll ignore you. A warm tank, for example. But if the scent is foreign, well, that would be a threat. Clemencia realizes what's happening and tries to pull her hand back.
That she never touched the pages.
But the snakes jump forward and sink their fangs into her flesh. She falls to the ground, and Gaul's attendants rush forward, inject her with something, and move her out of the room. Coriolanus asks Coriolanus asks if she's going to die, and Gaul tells him, well, it's anyone's guess. But
you should be your guest, high biologist Gaul.
Teacher at the school or whatever. And she's like out here murdering children.
This is what's like freaking Hogwarts, where the teachers don't seem to care at all about the students' well-being.
I knew you were going to compare it to that. But it is
because they're equally terrible schools.
Yeah. But clearly her scent's not on the paper, as she said it would be, so Coriolanus must have written it alone. He admits the truth.
But also, like, what if she just emailed it to him and he printed it out? Like,
well, she specifically says, I printed it out this morning, and I gave it to him, and he delivered it.
Right, but what if she had said, I just emailed him and he printed it out? Like,
I don't know that they have email, but...
My point is, like, well, what if her scent wasn't supposed to be on there? Would you still make her stick her head into the tank anyway?
I don't know what the plan was if she said she had not touched it at all.
Yeah. Anyway, wild stuff.
Luckily, she said she did.
Yeah, very convenient.
So he admits the truth and she tells him if he lies again, she will cut him off, and she won't stand in any way of any punishment that happens to him. But she does tell him the proposal was good, and she'll be implementing his suggestions. So the next day, or someday, they allow the tributes to go see the arena with their mentors on a tour to get a sense of the place. Why?
Sure.
Why, Sam? Why?
Again, if this was... my only reference is the original Hunger Games, where they have this whole thing about like training and getting them ready.
Yeah, but none of that's
this would make sense. Right. This would make sense if this was part of like a training thing or like the reality competition show. You're like, see the contestants in the arena before the show and get them, to know the space.
They are doing that a little bit. Like they have the camera crew there to watch them walk around. But the arena is quite literally just an arena.
It's just rubble. They're not like doing anything.
Like it's an arena. It's got stands, and then there's a big like oval in the center. Like it's not fancy. They didn't put stuff in it. They're not like.
I guess it's just a photo shoot, photo op. I guess
wild concept. The pageantry, I suppose.
Yeah.
And we find out that they finally fed a few of the tributes because a couple of them blacked out when they were trying to get them loaded up.
Good. I mean, I hate to have just you throw like imagine if they hadn't fed the tributes. How the Hunger Games is how many days away now? Weeks, months, years? Who knows?
No, it's like a day away.
But imagine if the ones who are just like open the like release the tribute, and then like a bunch of passed out people like collapse into the arena. All right. Show's over, everyone. Good show this year. Yeah. Well done.
Okay, yeah. I cannot wait till we get to the actual Hunger Games, Sam's. It is a wild, wild time.
These guys suck at making a show.
That's my favorite part of this book is how crazy this is. So as the group wanders around the arena, they're discussing options, like what to do, what the plans are, and a sudden explosion rents the air. Coriolanus immediately drops to the ground because he's having like PTSD bomb experience, right? And he's like trying to cover himself up so he doesn't get anything on him. And another bomb explodes and a beam falls towards him, pinning him to the ground. He quickly...
Oh no, not Coriolanus.
He dies. The end.
Okay, well.
The rest is his ghost.
No, the rest is... no ghost. But no, what it is Gaul, like, clones him and makes him into, like, a snake.
Oh, Gaul cloning him would be very cool. So anyway, he quickly realizes the beam is on fire and looks out towards Lucy Gray.
Wait. The beam is on fire.
And he looks out to Lucy Gray, who's like standing there, and he's like, help! And she's like,
Why? Why would she help him? Was she scared? I mean, to be fair, he is her literal meal ticket, but
also the bombs have like rent open the stadium, so they could literally run out if they could like get out before the peacekeepers find them.
Yeah, exactly.
So she's like, he's not 100% sure what's going on. He's like, is she going to escape or is she going to help me? You know? And she of course comes and she pulls the beam off of him and helps him out and puts out the fire that is on his clothes. So he's taken outside by peacekeepers as they round up the remaining tributes, though apparently Sejanus' tribute from District 2 has managed to escape, and there is a manhunt for him. Marcus, I think is his name.
Go, Marcus, go!
So he's in the hospital, and he asks the doctor if he knows how his tribute is doing, as she'd burnt her hands helping him. And the doctor tells him not to worry, there's a top-notch vet at the zoo, and I'm sure she's fine.
Again, no shade to vets. Vets are very good at what they do. What they do is treat animals, not people.
Yeah, I'd rather have a vet like on a deserted island than no doctor at all.
Exactly. But like, what is the point of giving them a vet? Like, that doesn't do anything. It's just like weirdly spiteful. It's
so like, I get that this is a dehumanizing event, but this book drives it home so hardcore. Like, it is YA fiction, which is not known for its subtlety. So. Yeah, like in the original Hunger Games books, you get like that, so much of that pageantry is built in, and they take such good care of the tributes prior to them actually going into the games. Like, it's a whole different world.
The contrast is the whole point.
Yeah, obviously, but like, it's just like the contrast of this makes it seem insane. Like, you're like,
guys, like, it's just there's no point to it.
You could have a human doctor. It's okay.
It won't make them any less tributes, I guess.
You can feed them. It's okay. They do better. Like, not feeding them is insane to me. Like,
that is the craziest part.
Like,
you might as well like keep them awake the whole time too. Like, don't let them sleep either. Oh yeah, there's a real good fight here between the sleepy, hungry people who can barely move. Yeah, real good fight.
Yeah, this seems like the basics. Just feed your tributes.
Imagine if, like, before the Rumble in the Jungle, they didn't let, like, was it Muhammad Ali eat anything?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, you can't eat for 2 weeks before the fight, and you're not going to be able to sleep either. What a great fight that would have been.
Absolutely not. They don't even get, like, bread and water. It's so crazy. So one night before he leaves the hospital, he's awakened and shocked to see Clemencia looming above him. She has snuck out of her ward to find him. And Clemencia, she's like literally like right in front of his face as he's laying in bed. And she insists that she's not safe, that no one is safe. And Coriolanus imagined that she must just be very delusional and sick from the snake bites because she's like ragged and gaunt, you know?
Well, maybe she's not safe then.
Clemencia insists that she's not delusional, and she rips an opening in her hospital gown, and she shows him a patch of skin over her chest and shoulder that is mottled with snake skin. And she's like, it's spreading.
They're turning her into an animorph.
Yeah. Woohoo.
That was Gaul the whole time. Make animorphs.
On the yerks or whatever they were called.
Yeeks?
Yerks.
It's
been a minute since I read Animorphs, everybody. I'm sorry. I read a lot of them today, though.
I mean, I read like a few. I don't think I got that into it. But apparently they go insane quickly. Like the story of the Animorphs is...
It's a big deal. Yeah, it's a big franchise and it's very popular still to this day.
And apparently, like, a bunch of really crazy, horrible, stuff happened to those books. It's like, oh, look, Final Children's book. No, they're dark.
Yeah, they're pretty good. Anyway.
Love it.
So, as all this happening, 2 hospital staff come in and haul her off as she starts to yell, and they take her away. So the next morning, the doctor comes in and is like, oh, I heard that you had a visit from Clemencia. Yeah, she's just had some unusual side effects from the snake venom, but it's working her way out of her system. She should be fine in a few days.
Yeah. I bet. I'm going to guess. Somewhere towards the mid to end of this book, we're going to see a snake Clemencia.
I am not going to tell you anything about that.
I'm looking forward to like that.
The next day he's let free, And I need to give you the math on this, Sam. 8 tributes have died already.
What?
8 tributes died. So
how?
One,
in the explosion?
Yes.
What was the explosion? Okay, what caused the explosion?
Rebels.
Okay.
Which we kind of get
Sure.
in, like, I'll tell you now. Like, basically, it's been planned for months.
They want to sabotage the Hunger Games. Sure.
Yeah, they wanted to make it like a big public display on live TV. So they bombed the heck out of the arena.
Crazy. Rebel attack, sure.
And 6 mentors are hospitalized or dead as well.
So far, great showing, everyone. Well done.
24 tributes, 8 of them are dead, and the games have not started. There's 16 tributes left.
Now, is this typical? How many tributes usually die before
usually they all
show?
make it to the game, except maybe occasionally probably one or two that die of that.
I was going to say, they don't feed them. How'd they get there?
Wild. And these are people who, like, most of them, a lot of the, like, especially the lower districts, like, are already hungry to begin with. Like, they're not.
Yeah.
So they still hold the interviews, though they're limited, as many are too ill to perform for the cameras. But Lucy Gray hits a home run with a song about an ex-lover in 12, which she tells Coriolanus later is a boy who 2-timed her with the mayor's daughter, hence the drama with the mayor's daughter. And
how old is she supposed to be? Because listen, Katniss like 14 or whatever.
Katniss?
Yeah, she was like 14.
She's
wasn't
16,
she 15?
I think.
Is Lucy 16 too?
She's somewhere between 16 and 18. She's older.
I'm just saying, like, to have a wistful song about a former lover when you're like 16 is nonsense.
Yeah, I think she's probably close. Like, I think they only go to 18 for the reaping, and I think she's probably the same age as Coriolanus. I don't think they say her age, but I would guess she's like 17, 18, probably 18. But she's
probably
lived,
playing this up for the camera.
She's lived. No, she does have an ex-lover in 12. She acts like a little mini adult, I'm going to be honest.
Okay. That's the part that's throwing me off. I'm like, I don't buy
She's got like an old soul vibe in the book.
I remember in my youth I had a lover in district, like, you're 18 or whatever. Like, chill.
I think she's like, and I think it's a similar, Katniss had a little more teenage to her, but I think she, like, it's the same thing. Like, they had to grow up very early. So I think this is like, people get married at this age. Like, I think your lifespan's shorter. You're an adult sooner.
Sure.
I suspect. No, I agree. But this obviously makes Coriolanus a little jealous, too, when he hears about it. So,
well, get over it.
I know. What a weenie. The night before the games, he meets up again with Lucy Gray as they talk strategy. And he secretly passes her his mother's old compact, like makeup compact, that he kept as a token, and he suggests that she uses the rat poison kept near the edge of the enclosure inside, in case she needs it. That's not something he's supposed to be doing, is giving her a weapon.
Uh-oh, foreshadowing.
Uh-oh. They kiss as he says goodbye, and he dies from rat poisoning. I'm just kidding.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Cut to the day of the games. Clemencia has been released from the hospital, but does not seem to be doing well. The students assemble, and the Hunger Games are ready to begin.
I bet they are.
So at this point, there are 14 tributes remaining. Marcus is missing. The 8 that died, and I think somebody else
sounds like hard
away.
math for you.
So, like, I'm trying to remember where the other one came from, but basically there's 14 tributes out of 24, Sam. 10 have managed to pass away somehow.
They lost 10.
Wild.
Yeah, not 8.
They are in a large circle. The wreckage from the bombing was left. And I know who else died. It was the one who killed Arachne. They shoot her.
Execute her or something?
They shoot her.
Of course.
So she's dead. Marcus is missing, and the 8 in the bombing. So they're in a large circle. They've been released into the arena. They're in a large circle. The wreckage from the bombing was left, and they just kind of like boarded up the areas that had opened. And there's
wreckage around seems to be these guys' MO.
Yeah. And it was like the day 2 days before, whatever. They were going to stop the games for rebels because that would show that the rebels had some kind of power, right? So obviously now they have to do it. And there is a pile of weapons strewn on the floor in the center. And they have added a Pan Am flag this year, an unprecedented decorative touch, quote unquote.
Sure.
The way they filmed this, bare bones, man.
like, not even any pageantry.
10
just
years
throw them in
of
there
this?
with a flag.
10 years of this. They didn't even have a flag last year. They just were in an arena.
They think he would have figured out better ways to do this, but what do I know?
And imagine, like, before, okay, right now it's visually interesting, right? There's wreckage from the bombing. Things are falling down. There's stuff to hide behind. Tunnels have opened up underneath the
that wasn't
system
there before,
that
just
weren't
an
there
empty
before.
sandy pit. Yeah,
it was just an arena before, and they, like, just filmed it. They didn't even have any decoration. They didn't, like, have anything to climb or hide behind. It was either the stands or the floor. Like, what kind of dumb game was this?
A very bad one, obviously. Like, I'm not the biggest reality TV buff, but at least I recognize what a good show is.
Yeah, crazy. So, strung from the top of a pole near the entrance is the District 2 boy who ran away, Marcus.
Oh, so they found him and they strung him up.
He's alive, but he is hanging by his, like, hands or whatever from one of the poles.
Sure, I'm sure that's going to be a real good show of empathy.
Coriolanus thinks that basically this is like a new low for the Capitol, but he wishes that there were microphones more present throughout the whole arena because he can't hear what the tributes or Marcus might be saying in reaction. Again.
Which would be great for production.
10 years, Sam. 10 years.
10 years, they can't figure out how to mic the arena? Like, I'm not saying you have an unrestricted broadcast, but, you know, you can edit. You can do a delay and edit it.
Can you imagine just you're watching a screen? This is like boring Truman Show. Like, you're just watching a screen of an arena. You can't hear what's happening, and people are just hiding and not fighting each other.
Like, who cares? How is this a thing that's still going on? How does anyone care about this?
Do not know. Sejanus freaks out when he sees Marcus, and he throws a chair at the screen before running out of the room. The gong sounds, and Lucy's plan for her, like that they had talked about, was that she's going to run and hide in the tunnels that have been blown open. So within minutes, the arena, like, completely clears out. And they're like,
there's no one there, nothing to watch.
Which feels very boring. So, and they talk about, oh, well, normally, you know, there'd be a big rush at the beginning as everybody's trying to get weapons, but we have such a small number now, and a lot of the major, like, District 1, District 2, District 4, whatever, like, all the big contenders are, like, now out of the picture with the bombing. So there's very few, like, major contenders left that actually want to fight.
So part of this, remind me, because I know that the whole point of the Hunger Games is if you win, your district gets food, but I don't know if that's, like, enough incentive for most people to murder each other.
So they don't own, I mean, one, they want to survive. So, I mean, I think it's true to life that maybe some people wouldn't want to fight, but some would probably fight to
I'm not
kill.
Saying that,
because they want to survive.
Like, if you have these dregs left, it sounds like running away and hiding is better than fighting, and why would they, like, I don't think they're going to fight.
Yeah, the other thing is your whole district gets rewarded, and then third is that in the original Hunger Games, like the, you know, later Hunger Games, they also get to go live in Victor's Village, which is like the fancy house. Their whole family gets to go move there with them, and they're provided for life.
Yeah. I mean, sure, I get that. I just think, like, most random children, I don't know if that's enough to be like, okay, I'm on board for murder now. Like, I think there's a bit of a larger hurdle, but what do I know?
I mean, I don't know. Think about Lord of the Flies. I think that group mentality, of, like, especially if you got into a group of that was... Yeah,
but Lord of the Flies wasn't about children. It was about the British.
Yes, but, you know, it's that concept. I think that concept, I think I slightly disagree with you. I think there's going to be a group of kids who are going to be like, no, I'm not killing you. Like, I can't do that. And they probably die pretty swiftly. But I think there is probably, especially if you're raised in a culture and there's career tributes.
That's true.
And, like, you know that if you get in here, this is, like, what your life is going to be. There's no out to this. Like, I think you'd be likely to try and kill people.
And that's fair.
Whether you wanted to or not. So they've also, like I said, the arena clears out. They've also just barricaded the exit that got blown out with, like, concrete slabs, planks, and barbed wire, which the camera tries not to show because they don't want to, like, remind the citizens about the rebels, you know? And the first sign of anything happening is about 30 minutes later, when one of the tributes makes their way back to the center, picks up a knife and axe, and climbs the steel pole Marcus is tied to.
And then, like, cuts him down or kills him, or she kills him or something, right?
Both those things. So she climbs up. She says something to him. The mics can't pick it up, Sam. She's, like, talking.
You know, it'd be really cool to pick up the last thing she says to this dude. That'd be really interesting, wouldn't it?
So the two of them have, like, a short conversation, and then she...
Look, sorry, 1 second. I can't let this go.
That's fine. Go for it.
Even if you're not making a TV show, as a authoritarian regime... you may want to keep tabs on what everyone is saying. Like, if you're trying to do a Big Brother thing, like, have the arena mic'd up so you can at least hear what they're saying. Maybe they're planning something with the rebels. You don't know because you can't hear anything.
I 100% agree. Like, the fact that this whole place is not mic'd to the 10 years into the Hunger Games. It's like, this isn't the first year. That'd be one thing. This is 10 years in, and they have not mic'd the stupid arena.
There shouldn't be any way for like, oh, how did Marcus escape? Well, if you had cameras over the place, maybe you would have seen where he went.
Absolutely.
I'm not in favor of a surveillance state, but like, again, if you're an authoritarian regime that's all about child murder, I don't think the surveillance state is that far removed from your moral compass.
Nope. Yeah, this is why I brought this to you, Sam. The absolute nonsense of these Hunger Games.
Oh gosh, I have feelings. I want to like. This is my sickness, Danielle. Is that like I know they're awful, but I still want to get in there and fix them. Like, guys, let me take over. Let me fix this. Make this better for you. You know they're awful.
You're like a more empathetic Coriolanus, but like obsessed with the idea of making these functional.
Yeah, like that's all. Like, I don't want the Hunger Games to work, but if you're gonna do it right. Like the person, the organizational person in me is like, this hurts.
Yeah. That's how I feel too. If you're going to do this, do it well. What are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. I don't think you should be doing it, but at least don't half-ass it.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I'm glad you feel the same as I do about this book. It's like really
We're the same disease, Danielle. The same brain disease.
We're really good at planning things, everybody.
This is why we're always so punctual and none of our friends are.
Okay, well, anyway, so she slices his throat with her axe and kills him. He is dead. Poor Marcus.
Yeah. Yeah.
The mentor in charge of the tribute is thrilled and sponsors gifts like pour in for her. He chooses one for her, which is a bottle of water, and they all wait in interest to see the delivery for the first time. Several minutes...
Wait, a bunch of different gifts pour in. Why does he only pick one of them? Send them all to her.
Well, he's starting with water.
Okay.
And he's saving them because who knows how long she'll last in the games, right? Maybe he only gets 10 gifts.
Right, I forgot about that whole thing. I forgot they banked them. I thought it was like, you get to pick one of these that come in. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, he banks them. He might be using them later. So he's going to send her some water. So several minutes pass before a drone appears, slowly and shakily making its way to her, where it promptly crashes into a crossbeam about 10 feet away from her and the water falls to the ground.
Great. Well done, guys. Super good. You know how you might have avoided this problem? If you spent any of the last year, I don't know, testing the drones out of your delivery system or planning any of this.
A whole year, Sam.
A whole year. They couldn't figure out how to get a drone delivery.
So bad
you get like
about
a teenager with a cheap, drone right now can deliver one of those.
Yeah.
Guys, you suck.
And these are apparently drones from the war. These are war drones, and they can't hold a bottle of water to like what
or avoid a beam.
What?
Insane. Your average commercial drone is better at object avoidance than this.
Oh, crazy. So the mentor complains, like, that's not fair. Like, she was supposed to get her water. And so about 10 minutes later, a new bottle appears. And the tribute manages to snatch it from the drone before it also plummets to the ground. So it doesn't even make it to her the second time. She just manages to grab the water from it.
Guys, I'm surprised the regime survives this Hunger Games because nothing shows incompetent. Like, oh, guys, you guys are terrible. This is like an incompetent regime. Clearly, all their war supplies don't work anymore. And they're wasting all their money on making snake humans for some reason instead of, I don't know, weapons, actual weapons. Maybe their drones work. Yeah, snake people. That's going to save us from the rebels. Insane.
Yeah. Agreed. So she hacks Marcus down from his ropes and waits on top of the beam. That's like now her new station. The game drags on, where the plan for Dr. Gall just seems to be to wait for people to get hungry or thirsty. That's the interview she does with the guy that's there. His name is Lucky Flickerman. He's clearly like the, I don't know, great-grandfather.
Yeah, the original?
He's the guy that's like in charge of it. He's the host of the Hunger Games. And he's who's he played by in the movie? Because he's just fabulous.
I want to say
movie.
Jeff Goldblum, but I know it's not Jeff Goldblum.
It's the same vibe, though.
Is it like Stanley Tucci?
Yes, it is Stanley Tucci. That's who it
Stanley
is.
Tucci,
yeah, he's so good at it. Like, that's who I imagine in my head. But Lucky Flickerman's like the B-level version of him. It's clearly like related to him in some way, a grandfather or something. I don't know. But he's like, he keeps doing this. In the movie, he like does this thing where he's like, and I'm an amateur magician, and he tosses like coins up in the air and stuff. And
I love Stanley Tucci.
That is not Stanley Tucci, but it's the guy that's in the movie originally. But Stanley Tucci is like so over the top. He's so good in the movies. Like he's exactly what you would think a host would be like.
Excellent.
Anyway, I would recommend you watch the movies, Sam. They're good.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't really get... dystopian media has somewhat lost its appeal in recent times.
But this was the original dystopian media, to be fair.
Yeah, I'm just saying, there is a time where it's fun to look at dystopian, times when it's not.
I know. So, like I said, Dr. Gall seems to think that just, like, people will come out. Like, it'll totally come out when they get hungry or thirsty. They won't just, like, die in the tunnels or stay in the tunnels the whole time.
Yeah, they will. Well, they're going to die anyway. Who cares?
Yeah. So, eventually, two do creep out, and they take parts from the drones. And Reaper, the forerunner to win, brings out another tribute who's racked with coughs and tucks her into a sunny spot to die, essentially.
His name is Reaper?
Reaper is the name of the... Dude, he's like District 4 or something. He's like the forerunner now that everybody else has died. He's the one that's like likely to win. Reaper. What an
amazing name.
Yeah, and they even joke in it, like, he got named Reaper before the Hunger Games. What a terrible name to have and then end up in the reaping. Like, they kind of laugh about it, the students at the Capitol, because, you know, they're terrible.
Insane.
Like, Reaper from the reaping. Ha 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 ha. So they assume that the girl that he brought up and laid down in the big sunny spot has TB and is on her way to dying, which means, Sam, they all have TB.
TB is still a thing, yeah. Because TB is highly contagious.
They all have TB. Everybody.
The whole district has TB. Snow has TB. The snake girl has TB. It's TB all the way down.
And this one's like she's in the movie particularly, but you should mention in the book. Like she's coughing all of the time. She's just spraying her TB germs all over the zoo. And these kids are grouped together from the get-go. Like they are dead. They all have TB. And they talk about how it still sweeps through the Capitol occasionally, and it's like a problem.
You want to know why? Because you're bringing it from the Hunger Games.
Yeah, absolute wild concept. So anyway,
insane.
They are all dying of TB in the end of this. It doesn't matter. So that evening, Coriolanus heads home to get some rest, but arrives to find company. The mother of Sejanus is there, and he hasn't come home. He finally talks the mother into going home, like, hey, go home. He's probably going to come anytime. Like, I'm sure he's just taking a walk. He's had a really bad day. That as they're about to leave, she realizes that Sejanus is on the TV, like in the Hunger Games. He is in the arena.
Uh-oh.
Yep. So it's hard to see him because night's fallen, but his mother...
Do they have cameras and mics on him at least?
They have cameras. So they have like a broad scope camera that they're using, and they can see that somebody is on the screen, and his mother's like, that's him. That's like his shadow, how he moves. That's like Sejanus.
Insane.
And Coriolanus is like, yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right about that. That does look like It looked like Sejanus now that you've mentioned it. And Coriolanus is obviously aghast, and he's like, this guy's gonna ruin us all, and like, I'm supposedly his friend, and people are gonna like associate me with him. And he asks what he's doing, and his mom says it looks like he's sprinkling breadcrumbs on Marcus's body, which is a District 2 tradition, so they have food on their journey to the afterlife. And the phone rings, and it's Dr. Gall, and she is livid. And again, she believes them to be good friends, despite his statements to the contrary. And
what? Why would she believe? Again, she's crazy.
Because she believes they're friends because she asked Dean Highbottom, like, who is Sejanus close to? And he's like, the only person is Coriolanus. Like, he doesn't have any other friends in the academy, which is true.
Still insane.
Yeah. And so she tells, you can hear her in the background, like, talking to the staff of the Hunger Games. And she's like, hey, don't cut away, but darken it as much as possible to create cover. Like, you know, like the cloud went over the moon or something. So it doesn't look like as obvious as a cutaway. Otherwise, they're going to know something's going on, like viewers.
Sure.
So she wants to send in Coriolanus, afraid that he'll either get taken out by other tributes or the peacekeepers will cause a scene if they go in to try and pick him up. And she tells Coriolanus to come over or he'll kiss his chance of a prize goodbye.
What? I'm getting to really question Gall's acumen at creating a good, fun show.
Now you are? 10 years of this nonsense and you're like, this is the where you draw the line.
I mean, no, because like maybe she was just lazy or didn't care before, but now they're like giving her good drama on a silver platter, and she's like, "Yeah, let's finish. Let's end this." Like, she's insane.
From what I gather from this is like she doesn't want this to happen on live TV because one, it's like killing somebody from the Capitol, right? That's a bad idea. And then secondly, like this family is super duper wealthy. This kid is like the son of the person who basically is like rebuilt the entire school. Like, if his son gets killed on live TV from tributes, like, her game's never going to happen, and she's like obsessed with her game, even though she puts apparently no effort into it, but she's obsessed with the idea of the game, and like, just obviously, like, him dying on it would be a really bad idea to her.
Okay, sure.
So the only thing she could think of is to send Coriolanus in, I guess. So Coriolanus shows up to the arena, and after a brief discussion, they agree to send him in to get Sejanus. He's given body armor to cover his organs, pepper spray, and a flash unit to blind enemies if they come up. But the goal is just to get in and get him out. Coriolanus is led into the arena and passes through the blockade, and he spots Sejanus off in the distance. And that's where we're going to end, Sam.
Oh no, what happened to Sejanus?
The end.
Oh, well, that was certainly a Hunger Games story, I guess. Well, we're not finished with it, to be fair.
The back half is completely different.
I mean, if those two summaries you sent me were any clue, I have to imagine so. How did this regime... I mean, I asked this question a lot about real regimes in real life, so what do I know? But, like, this regime seems so incompetent, and the people they hire, like, how are they maintaining power?
I cannot tell you, Sam. I genuinely do not understand how this version of the Hunger Games has lasted 10 years.
Or a year, or at all.
Yeah, it's astounding to me. Like, nobody's watching this game.
This as a punishment, just have, like, a public execution of random children. Like, that's basically what you're doing.
Right, and I didn't say that specific line, but Casca Highbottom even says that. Like, we could just have executions, you know? Like, why the Hunger Games? Again, we have not gotten an answer to that yet, but...
Yeah, but also, like, again, if you want to have a lottery for food, those could be separate things. I mean, I guess linking them together makes the people less likely to overthrow your Hunger Games, but, like, I still think it'd be fairly easy to... not have a Hunger Games and, you know, maybe have like a lottery or one of the people chosen is saved or whatever. I don't know. Why make it a competition? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, because, you know, I don't know.
I don't know. Get people invested in it. I get
why it's a competition later with the way that they do it. And it's like this huge pageantry situation. I don't get why this is a competition.
That's what I'm getting at. Thank you. Yes.
This does not make sense as a competition. This is doing nothing as a competition.
Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at here. I was trying to, like, I get how a competition could work. This is not that.
Yeah. And it's not even competitive. Like, there's no betting. Nobody's watching it. Nobody's, like, they're just putting a bunch of kids and, like, literally there's no way to make people watch this thing at this point in time. Like, it's just kids fighting each other. And I guess the only sadness is that, like, your tributes are going to come back dead.
You know what would have a better idea than 10 years of Hunger Games? After, like, year 4 or 5... you could have said, we think the district have suffered enough. We're ending the Hunger Games as a benevolent gesture from the capital to show you how good and great we are.
Yep.
Right? And when that endear the populace to you. And then you could set up a different competition, maybe a propaganda like, you know, you can call it propaganda competition, but like, you know, demonstrate your love for the Pan Am or whatever. The best entry wins, like have a talent show or whatever and wins the food or something.
Yeah. You could make it much more patriotic than this is.
Exactly. You know, show how much you love the capital and the best entry wins food for the year or whatever.
Yep. Nope. It's just like ruled in fear, Sam, but poorly.
Yeah. Again, I understand how ruling in fear works. This does not seem like it's an effective way to do that. But again, I'm not a dictator. I never lived in a dictator. Well, I haven't. I've never lived in a full-blown dictatorship yet. So maybe I'm going to learn some things. Who knows?
Maybe we'll get a Hunger Games.
Oh boy, can't wait for that. Well, if you want to suggest a tribute for the Book Retorts Hunger Games, you can do so at bookretorts.com.
I'd watch Book Retorts Hunger Games.
Danielle, how do you think it would go between us? It would not go very well.
Are we fighting each other? We're not getting, like, tributes? I thought we were, like, digging tributes from our audience or something.
Oh, you mean like we're hosting the Hunger Games? Sure.
Obviously, we put on a really good Hunger Games. We can't put on our own Hunger Games, Sam.
That's a good point. You're right. You know what? I take it back. Let's do it. Put that out there.
You'd make a great Hunger Games host. You'd Stanley Tucci.
Oh, I'd be a great Tucci.
Well, that's a sentence I never needed to hear. If you want to donate to that, feel free.
Yeah, you can do that on our patreon.com/bookretorts.
You can also reach out to us on Blue Sky at Book Retorts or bookretorts.com.
In reality, to be clear, we're anti-child murder. This is a bit.
In case that wasn't clear.
Because that wasn't abundantly obvious.
Just because we'd be good at designing games to kill them does not mean we actually want to kill them.
Right. Just because we have functioning brains and organize events, we'd be great at wedding planning too. There's similar skill sets.
Reach out to us for your Hunger Games wedding.
There you go. Then combine all our skills together. Well, until next time, I guess you're going to do something, do it right.
Yes, words to live by.
Definitely. Except maybe for Hunger Games. Maybe do those badly. I don't know.
Worked out well for them.
Yeah, sure. All right, well, until then, bye.
Take care, everybody.
Oh, hold on. I got an ice cream truck.
What a crazy concept, right? It's so old-fashioned, like an ice cream truck. It's very 50s and 60s.
I mean, I like ice cream, don't get me wrong, but I think there'd be better dessert trucks to have.
They should have a coffee and snack truck for the adults that follows along behind the ice cream truck.
I mean, I'd love a fancy bakery truck. Oh, you want some macarons, or a sponge cake or anything that'd be cool.
I said for years that they should have either a coffee truck that drives around or coffee delivery to businesses that just makes the loops and drops midday coffee. They'd make a fortune.
What are we doing making a podcast that makes no money, Danielle? Let's do that.
I don't know.